Whoa. The fat crib. Okay. It's clown free shit. MMG shit. I'm the same nigga, 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 same old street nigga. I'm the same nigga, same old trap nigga. I'm the same nigga, same old Mac nigga. I'm the same nigga, pouring in my bag nigga. Yeah, serve a nigga that fits. In the hood with a stick. Mindset get rich. On cuz that's it. I was working that scale. Really beating that pot. In the hood with that drop. Trying to ride me a drop. Selling working my socks. Get the dough with my Glock. Pop a nigga through the peephole. Now that funny shit can get stopped. Hey, niggas know about the kid now. Yeah, niggas know you get stick down. SK hold 3 now. That 3 harm get sweet down. Ballin', bustin' fucking all these niggas hold now. Trust me, I'm clutching. Wrecked up in the geek now. Same nigga you hatin' on be the same nigga with your bitch house. Drunk and fucking your bitch mouth. Beatin' it down your big cat. I'm the same nigga, I'm the same nigga. 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 I'm the same nigga, same old street nigga. I'm the same nigga, same old trap nigga. I'm the same nigga, same old Mac nigga. I'm the same nigga, pouring nigga.
I'm the same nigga, still move ground, send a dope. Move 100,000 chopaholic. Muscle gang, Lex, Luger, 10 shooters in a Uber. Pull up on your baby mama, pussy nigga. Same time, I'ma roll it, though the time wrong. Same block, niggas grind on. Same light, niggas shine on. I'm the same nigga with the Range Rover, ride dirty while the 12 rollers. Cans ashing from the baking soda. I was cooking up the Coca-Cola. Fiends, how you dabbing for that check? Trap booming, I ain't missing yet. Same nigga from the same hood. Same gang got a Hollywood. Catching plays, I been running routes. 5 years, I'm gon' run it south. Ain't no secret, bitch, I'm in and out. Buying wings, stopping Waffle House. Whole store, taking money back. Kill him hundreds like a psychopath. Same nigga with a lot of cash. Same nigga with the same rags.
I'm the same nigga, I'm the same nigga. 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 I'm the same nigga, same old street nigga. I'm the same nigga, same old trap nigga. I'm the same nigga, same old Mac nigga. I'm the same nigga, pouring in your head nigga. Yeah.
We Japanese still. You getting cooked in front of your family like a Japanese meal. It's y'all shoot the hibachi and none of you niggas can stop me, but can't help but watch me. Look, man, tonight's episode is going to be a brief one. I ain't got much time. I wanted to bless you guys with another episode. Something to think about, something to chew on. You understand? I'm going to be reading to you guys a chapter out of Taking Back Astronomy by Jason Lau. He's an astronomer. He believes in the Most High. He's a Bible believer. And he's also in the field of astronomy. He has his degree. He is a professional in the field, and he's respected in the field. So I bumped into this guy a couple years ago. Back when I was met with challenges. I used to believe that the earth was 6,000 years. I used to believe in the 6,000 year theory. I followed a lot of the famous creationists that you see, Kent Hovind and Ken Ham and all those guys, and I watch everything revolving around that. And I couldn't find answers to the universe. I couldn't find answers to explain the Big Bang Theory back then. So it was a lot of things that I was reading in astrophysics, following Neil deGrasse Tyson, and there was certain things I was stuck on. So I started researching to see if I could find a astronomer that believed that in that way and taught and was able to give an explanation for those things. And during that time, it was Jason Lau. Since then, I read his works, bought his books, but since then I have moved on, and now I'm no longer a supporter of the 6,000 year theory. There's so many contradictions, so many things that proves otherwise. The Earth is way much older, very much older. So I moved on, but I still enjoy his works, especially what we see here in chapter 2. I think it's very intriguing and interesting that these biblical verses that he pointed out in his book actually do comport with, what we see in science, what has been confirmed in the field of science. Because we speak of science as if science is a proposition, but science is a conceptual tool and it's a field. It's not like saying that you're a Christian or saying that you joined the Boy Scouts of America. It's not that. And people try to utilize that word incorrectly. According to scientists, not science, because science does not have opinions. It does not have the capacity to do that. It's a field or a conceptual tool that we use to try to understand the known world. And I believe Jason Lau hit it on the head with chapter 2 in his book, Taking Back Astronomy, even though I no longer follow the paradigm of the Earth being 6,000 years old. I think the Earth is very, very old. I think humans are very, very old. And I don't believe that necessarily clashes with the narrative. It only clashes with people's idea of what the narrative should say and what they think it should say, right? So I'm not going to beat around the bush too much tonight. I really got to go to bed. I got to work late, and I worked this weekend, and you know how that goes. So it's warm down here in Texas, and my job is to keep people comfortable. Hey, with that being said, let's get to the book. Let's get to the book. Jason Lau, Taking Back Astronomy. Right, and I will be putting this banner, fair use banner, on the bottom. And if anybody wants to help me purchase books, because I've been footing that bill by myself for a long time. I own over 300 books on Google Play alone. Then my Kindle books, I don't know the number on that one, but I own a lot of books, man. I try to just spend majority of my time researching and learning, because a lot of people want to speak about it but don't want to know about it and learn about it. And why shoot the breeze about it? We can be about it, like Nas said in his sophomore album. It was written. So if anybody want to help with funding the book fund, I can go out and purchase new books, and I'm going to give you guys your value right back, because I will bring out the information and the jewels on the channel. And also I will be taking the highlights and putting them in the Genesis 49ers resource group on Facebook. So if you so kindly could just, give a donation if you can. And you guys can support the book fund so we can continue to break down and, give the content to you guys for free. I spend hours reading and studying for you guys, for the sake of you guys, so you can have a clean glass of water, because a lot of people make claims, but they don't research any of those claims. They don't try to substantiate those claims. All right. So with that being said, let's get into this book, man. Let's get into this book. Anyway, here it is here. So this is Taking Back Astronomy by Jason Lau. Let me go let you guys see the cover of the book. Here's his cover. I think it came out in 2006. See, Jason Lau is a PhD in astrophysics from the University of Colorado, so he knows his stuff. He just has a young Earth creationist paradigm, which I no longer support, by the way. But I like his second chapter. I like his second chapter. Thank you, Curtis Lee. But next time, try to do the Cash App, brother. I appreciate all the help you give, brother, man. All that money is going towards books, bro. the next book, bro. Promise you. I'm not like these other channels, bro. These other channels, you trying to live off y'all, man. So that's the book fund right there. Yeah, Shuby 214. I appreciate all the help for those that can give. But anyway, the train doesn't stop, right? So with that being said, let's drop that down a little bit. All right. Let's get into it, man. So this is chapter 2, and he entitled the chapter "The Universe Confirms the Bible." In this chapter, we will explore some passages of scripture which touch upon the topics of astronomy and astrophysics. It is interesting that many of the Bible statements about astronomy went against the generally accepted teachings of the time. Undoubtedly, many of these verses would have seemed counterintuitive and may have been difficult to believe when they were first written. However, modern science has confirmed what the Bible has taught. As in all things, the Bible is absolutely correct when it teaches about the universe. The first thing is the earth is round. You got someone, Sanchez, whatever his name is, Dirty Sanchez is what I call him. Dirty Sanchez on Sonetta TV is basically making a claim that the Bible is saying that the earth is flat or whatever. But actually, if you read these verses here that he's going to bring up, it's impossible that the Bible is insinuating that. It's an old document that's claiming the earth is round, actually. And I know people go to scriptures and say, "Oh, they try to use cardinal positions to prove that the earth's not flat," or it says the earth is the Lord's footstool. No, that's not. You know, no cigar for you, man. You don't get it. Anyway, so this section he starts off. It says the earth is round. The Bible indicates that the earth is round. Consider Isaiah 40 and 22, which mentions the circle of the earth. And now, flat earthers will say, "Oh, it's a flat circle. It's a flat disc," to try to get around this. But this is actually talking about it's round. And this is how we know that it's round like a spear, right? This description is certainly fitting, particularly when the earth is viewed from space. The earth always appears as a circle since it's round. Another verse that indicates the spherical nature of our planet is Job 26, verse 10. This verse teaches that God has inscribed a circle on the surface of the waters at the boundary of light and darkness. The only way you can get this to happen, this is me talking right now, I'm going to give my commentary. The only way this can happen is if the earth is round, like a spear or like a ball. It's the only way you can get a symmetrical line, right, that divides night and day all around the earth's surface, right? That's what Job 26 and 10 is describing. It's called a terminator, right? Watch this. It says this boundary between light and darkness, day and night, is called the terminator. Since the light stops or terminates there, someone standing on the terminator would be experiencing either a sunrise or a sunset. They are going from day to night or from night to day. The terminator is always a circle because the earth is round. You can only reproduce this on a round earth, not a flat earth. The Bible actually describing a round earth, and that's why the Jewish sages pretty much said they were on a ball, and other people on the other side of that ball in the Zohar writings. It says one of the great delights of observing the moon through a small telescope is to look at its terminator, especially during the first or third quarter phases when the terminator is directly down the middle of the moon. The craters are most easily seen at this boundary since the sun is at a low angle and casts very long shadows there. The moon looks particularly three-dimensional when viewed through a telescope during these phases. It is clear that the moon is a sphere, not a flat disk. For the earth, the terminator occurs not on a cratered rocky surface, but primarily on water, since the earth's surface is 70% water. Job 26:10 suggests a God's eye view of the earth. This biblical passage would be nonsense if the earth was flat, since there would be no true terminator. There is no line to step over that separates the day from night on a flat surface. Either it's a day everywhere or night everywhere on a hypothetical flat earth. However, the earth does indeed have a boundary between light and darkness, which is always a circle since the earth is round. Curiously, many astronomy books credit Pythagoras, circa 570 to 500 BC, would being the first person to assert that the earth is round. However, the biblical passages are older than this. Isaiah is generally acknowledged to have been written in the 700s BC, and Job is thought to have been written around 2000 BC. The secular astronomers before the time of Pythagoras must have thought the Bible was wrong about its teaching of a round earth. If the Bible was exactly right, it was the secular science of the day that needed to be corrected, right? Because, the common expression or common thought process on the earth back then was that it was flat, but the people that were writing the Bible, that culture understood that it was round. Right here it says the earth floats in space. This is something else the ancient writers of the Bible understood, because this is actually mentioned in the book of Job as well. It says here, a very interesting verse to consider is Job 26, verse 7, which states that God hangs the earth on nothing. This might evoke an image of God hanging the earth like a Christmas tree ornament, but hanging it on empty space. This verse expresses in a poetic way the fact that the earth is unsupported by any other object, something quite unnatural for ancient writers to imagine. Indeed, the earth does float in space. We now have pictures of the earth taken from space that show it's floating in the cosmic void. The earth literally hangs on nothing, just as the Bible teaches. Next portion is dealing with the expansion of the universe. The Bible indicates in several places that the universe has been stretched out or expanded. For example, Isaiah 40, verse 22 teaches that God stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. This would suggest that the universe has actually increased in size since its creation. God has stretched it out. He has expanded it and is perhaps still expanding it. This verse must have seemed very strange when it was first written. The universe certainly doesn't look as if it is expanding. After all, if you look at the night sky tonight, it will appear about the same size as it did the previous night and the night before that. Ancient star maps appear virtually identical to the night sky today. Could the universe really have been expanded? It must have been hard to believe at the time. In fact, secular scientists once believed that the universe was eternal and unchanging. The idea of an expanding universe would have been considered nonsense to most scientists of the past. And one of those scientists were Albert Einstein, because he believed in a static universe until the Hubble expansion, and Hubble discovered that the universe was actually expanding. He discovered the redshift. Objects that project a red shift in the light spectrum are moving far from us, moving away from us, and blue shift means moving towards us. It says here, it must have been tempting for Christians to reject what the Bible teaches about the expansion of the universe. Perhaps some Christians tried to reinterpret Isaiah 40, verse 22, and read it in an unnatural way so that they wouldn't have to believe in an expanding universe. When the world believes one thing and the Bible teaches another, it is always tempting to think that God got the details wrong, but God is never wrong. So, for thousands of years, the Hebrew writers understood that the universe was expanding, and like I said, even Einstein thought the universe was static until I think the 20s, right? But the Hebrew writers got that right, actually. It says here, most astronomers today believe that the universe is expanding. This expansion is a very natural result of the physics that Einstein discovered, general relativity. Moreover, there is observational evidence that the universe is indeed expanding. In the 1920s, astronomers discovered that virtually all clusters of galaxies appear to be moving away from all other clusters. This indicates that the entire universe is expanding. This effect can be illustrated with points on a balloon. As the balloon is inflated, all points move farther away from each other. If the entire universe were being stretched out, the galaxies would all be moving away, and that is exactly what they appear to be doing. It is interesting that the Bible recorded the notion of an expanding universe thousands of years before secular science came to accept the idea. Creation and depth, the Hubble law, what does it mean? Nearly all galaxies in the universe are red shifted. That means that the wavelengths of the light they emit have been increased. The light has been stretched out since it was emitted. It is shifted toward the red end of the spectrum since red light has a longer wavelength than blue. There are several ways in which light can be red shifted. Motion is one way. This is called the Doppler effect. When a car passes by, its sound changes pitch because the sound waves are either compressed or stretched out depending on whether the car is approaching or moving away. Likewise, the wavelength of a light is changed when the source is moving. The effect is not as easy to see with light as it is to hear with sound. Since the spread of light is so much greater than the speed of sound, objects must be moving very fast in order to see the Doppler effect. Gravity can also affect the wavelength of light. Strong gravitational fields slow the passage of time in accordance with Einstein's relativity. Real quick, a sidebar on that. There are places in the universe where time is at zero, right? These are called event horizons, right? And black holes are known for having an event horizon. If you ever seen the movie Interstellar, then you would understand when he went out of space, he experienced an event horizon where he didn't experience time, he didn't age or anything, and by the time he got back to Earth, like his daughters, his children were grown. They had children for themselves. If you guys haven't seen the movie, I'm not trying to spoil it for you, but come on, the movie's old. Go watch it. I think you can watch it on Hulu. So yeah, gravity does affect time. It says this means that light emitted near a massive object will be red shifted. Expansion of the universe can also cause light to be red shifted. As the universe expands, any light traveling within it will also be stretched out along with the universe. The longer the light has been traveling, the more red shifted it will be. Astronomers can determine the distance to galaxies and are also able to determine the redshifts of those galaxies. Observations have shown that the redshift of a galaxy is proportional to its distance from our galaxy. The more distant a galaxy is, the more its light is shifted toward the red. This is called the Hubble law. Most astronomers believe that expansion of the universe is the most likely cause for the red shifts, because it would naturally lead to this result. More distant galaxies will be more red shifted because their light has been traveling longer and has thus been expanded by a greater amount. The Hubble law is the evidence. Distant galaxies show greater red shifts than nearby galaxies. The interpretation is that universal expansion has caused these red shifts. Recently, some astronomers have questioned this interpretation. Might there be another cause of these redshifts? This is certainly possible. However, there are some good reasons to think that universal expansion is the correct interpretation of the Hubble law. First of all, a static universe is nearly impossible according to general relativity. The laws of physics indicate that the universe must either be expanding or collapsing. So we would expect the universe to be expanding or possibly collapsing on the basis of known physics, even if we had no observation of redshifts at all. Secondly, other known ways of producing redshifts would not necessarily produce a Hubble law relation. Expansion of the universe naturally produces the result that more distant galaxies are more redshifted, all on the basis of known physics. I would suggest that expansions of the universe is the best explanation of the data at the moment, though other interpretations are possible. An expanding universe does not necessarily support the Big Bang. Just because the universe is apparently expanding does not mean that it was infinitely small, nor does this indicate that a Big Bang caused the expansion. It is also important to note that the Big Bang did not predict any such expansion. On the contrary, the Big Bang was invented to explain such expansion within the framework of naturalism. The Bible, however, did refer to an expanding universe long before secular astronomers came to accept that idea. Conservation of mass energy. A very important concept in physics is the conservation of energy. This principle states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. There are a lot of different kinds of energy. Heat, light, sound, and electricity are all forms of energy. We can change one type of energy into another, and we can move energy from one place to another. But the total quantity of energy in the universe is constant and cannot be changed. There's also a conservation principle of mass. Mass is the property of an object to resist a change in its motion. Things that possess a lot of mass are very heavy. Things with little mass are light. We can move mass from place to place and transform one kind of mass into another by a chemical reaction, for example. But just like energy, mass cannot be created nor destroyed. So both mass and energy are conserved. In fact, Einstein was able to demonstrate that all energy possesses an equivalent mass and vice versa. To put it another way, mass and energy are really the same thing manifesting in different ways. This is the meaning of Einstein's famous equation E equals mc squared. We can combine these principles into the conservation of mass energy. Colloquially speaking, the amount of stuff in the universe is constant. Conservation of mass energy is exactly what we would expect on the basis of scripture. The Bible indicates that no new material can come into existence. This is indicated in John 1 and 3 and Genesis 2 and 2. John 1 and 3 states that all things were made by God and nothing has come into existence apart from him. Furthermore, God ended his work of creation by the 7th day of the creation week according to Genesis 2:2. Since only God can bring new things into existence from nothing, since God ended his work of creation by the 7th day, no new material will come into existence today. Second, the Bible suggests that nothing will cease to exist. This is because God is upholding all things by his sustaining power, Hebrews 1 and 3. And by him all things consist, Colossians 1 and 17. Neither matter nor energy will cease to exist because God is sustaining them. And since nothing new will come into existence, we can conclude that the amount of material in the universe is constant. Of course, the Bible makes room for miracles, supernatural interventions by God, but miracles by definition do not conform to the laws of physics. There are exceptions by their very nature. The universe itself obeys the law of conservation of mass energy. The number of stars. The Bible often uses the stars of heaven to represent an extremely large quantity. Genesis 22, verse 17 teaches that God will multiply Abraham's descendants as the stars of heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore. Genesis 32, verse 12 makes it clear that this represents a number which is uncountable by humans, the sand of the sea which cannot be numbered for multitude. These are excellent analogies. Clearly, the sand of the sea and the stars in the universe cannot be counted exactly by humans, though, of course, they can be roughly estimated. Interestingly, the two quantities come out to about the same order of magnitude, 10 to the 22nd power, or 10 billion trillion. Give or take a factor of 10 or so. For other verses using stars as an illustration of large numbers, see Deuteronomy 1:10 and 10, verse 22. It was not always believed that the stars were so numerous. The astronomer Claudius Ptolemy, AD 150, cataloged 1,022 stars in his work, De Almagest. Many astronomers believe that these were the only stars that existed, even though Ptolemy never claimed that his catalog was exhaustive. Of course, there are many more stars than this number. The total number of stars that can be distinctly seen from both hemispheres under ideal dark sky conditions with the unaided eye is around 10,000. The precise number depends on how good one's vision is. Today, with the help of modern science, we have an even greater appreciation of just how innumerable the stars are. Powerful telescopes allow us to see stars much too distant and faint to be seen without optical aid. Even binoculars reveal countless multitudes of stars that cannot be seen by the unaided eye. Astronomers believe that there are more galaxies in the visible universe than there are stars in our own. Each of these galaxies would have hundreds of millions to trillions of stars. Modern science certainly confirms Genesis 22, verse 17. So that's another verse that, the biblical writers got right. You can't count the stars. There's too many of them, even though, Greeks and Romans thought that you could, right? The ordinance of heaven and earth. The Bible teaches that the universe obeys physical laws, the ordinance of heaven and earth, Jeremiah 33, verse 25. The universe is neither haphazard nor arbitrary. Nature conforms to logical mathematical relationships set in place by the Lord. Sidebar on this. This is why Bible believers, spearheaded modern science, because they believe that the universe was regulated by laws. Right? And God was the lawgiver. He is the divine legislator. That's the principle that they believed in. So it says here, the laws of physics and chemistry are examples of these ordinances of heaven and earth. Clockwork precision of the planets as they orbit the sun is due to their strict obedience to God's ordinances. The stars and planets are never late, nor are they early. They do not fail to appear in their proper place at the proper time. Isaiah 40 and 26. The laws of nature are consistent and logical because the Creator is consistent and logical. We can trust that the same physics which worked yesterday will also work today. This principle is foundational to the scientific process. The very reason that science is possible is because the universe consistently obeys simple mathematical formula. Furthermore, God created our minds with an impressive, though finite, ability to interpret the data around us and draw logical conclusions. We are therefore able to discover, at least to some extent, the ordinances of the universe by observation, experimentation, and logical reasoning. Once we understand the nature of these physical laws, we can use them to make accurate predictions about the future, such as computing the positions of the planets in advance. Both Earth and the rest of the physical universe, heaven and earth, obey the laws of nature. Many ancient cultures believed that the universe beyond Earth was the realm of the gods. Indeed, the planets were often worshipped as gods. In reality, the planets are simply created objects which obey the same laws of nature which we can study on Earth. In an incredible leap of insight, the biblical creationist Isaac Newton realized that the moon orbits the Earth because the moon is pulled by Earth's gravity. The moon falls just like any other object. Earth's gravity deflects the moon's path through space. Since the moon has a tangential perpendicular to the line from the Earth to itself velocity, it falls around the Earth rather than straight down. Newton also realized that the planets orbit the sun for the same reason. The sun's gravity keeps them in their orbit. The planets and stars are not gods, they are mere creations in nature which obey the Lord's ordinances. Creation in depth, the law of gravity. We almost done. Consider the law of gravitational attraction. F equals Gm divided by R squared. Here the force of gravity on an object of the mass produced by a nearby mass at a distance is related by this simple equation. Parameter G is the gravitational constant of the universe. It sets the overall strength of gravity. G is a very tiny number, which is why gravity is weaker than the three other known fundamental forces: electromagnetism, the weak nuclear force, and the strong nuclear force. If creation were not true, if the universe had no designer, then why should gravity obey such a simple logical formula? For that matter, why should gravity obey any formula at all? The law of gravity suggests a lawgiver. It is consistent with creation. Of course, many of the laws of nature can be derived mathematically from other laws. For example, Kepler's law of planetary motion can be derived from Newton's laws of gravity and motion. And it is thought that the reason gravity works the way it does is because mass curves space-time. Essentially, space and time are treated as a fabric, which is distorted by the presence of mass. The mass curves space-time, then space-time tells the mass how to move. Many laws of nature depend on other laws, which depends on still others, and so on. Ultimately, there must be a foundational set of principles which exist for no other reason than that God has so decreed. Ultimately, the fundamental laws of nature require a lawgiver. All right. That's it, man. I don't know if I could. Should I even finish this? Astronomy confirms this. Oh, wait. No, this is it. This is the end of it. My bad. Astronomy confirms the Bible. Today, the reliability of the Bible is being increasingly attacked. Can we really trust the Bible in our modern age of technology and science? As we have seen, science is not the enemy of the Bible. On the contrary, modern science has been able to confirm much of what the Bible teaches about astronomy. Many of the biblical teachings, which would have been difficult to believe in the past, such as an expanding universe, are now accepted in science textbooks. This is an important lesson to learn. Ideas in secular science can change from time to time, but the Bible has demonstrated itself to be consistently true without the need for change. Although much of secular astronomy has come to line up with the Bible, there are still a number of differences. What are we to do when the current consensus among scientists is at odds with the teachings of the scripture? Have we learned a lesson of history? Are we going to reject or modify our interpretation of the straightforward teachings of the scripture in light of the latest secular scientific claims? Or shall we trust that the Bible will prevail again as it always has in the past? It may help to remember that our modern age is just another point in history. Future generations, should the Lord delay his return, will no doubt look back at our time as we look back to cultures of the past. Will students in some future classroom look back with amusement at some of the scientific beliefs and misunderstandings of our time, the same way we smile at the scientific mistakes of ancient cultures when they learn about the great folly, the nearly universal belief in the Big Bang and molecules to man evolution, which reigned during the 20th and early 21st centuries. Perhaps future Christians will wonder at the rampant compromise so prevalent in our time. Why did Christians of the past compromise with the secular ideas of the Big Bang in billions of years? In the next chapters, we will explore points of disagreement between straightforward teachings of the Bible and the current opinions of the majority of astronomers. The Bible really is the Word of God as it claims to be, then it cannot fail. Inevitably, the secular opinions will collapse, and the Bible will again be vindicated in each of these points of disagreement. So I like this brother's book, man. I like this book, and this chapter is what stood out to me the most, even back then. Now, again, I do not follow his line of logic and reasoning. Um, I do believe the Earth is older than 6,000 years. He doesn't. But with that said, I still think there are poignant points in this chapter I want to share with you guys tonight. It's a quick, easy read, so I want to just bring this out and give y'all something because I got home late. I want to just provide something to you guys of substance. Again, the expanding universe concept is in the scriptures. The Earth hanging in nothing. It's in the scriptures. The Earth does hang in the cosmic void. It hangs in space. It does not need pillars like a building or something like that. The Earth just hangs in space. Um, the ordinances of the universe. The universe does abide by laws, right? Like the law of gravity, right? And that many of the early founders of modern science, that was like their MO, their modus operandi. It would tell you that, hey, you have laws because you have a divine legislator, stuff of that nature. So hopefully somebody got something out of this, man. I just want to read chapter 2 to you guys tonight, man. You guys can go purchase this book. Many of the things he teaches in here, I don't agree with anymore. But this was a great book that I purchased back when I used to believe in that paradigm that the Earth was 6,000 years old. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I was like, man, I keep hearing scientific arguments about the universe, and I don't hear any creationists making any arguments against it. And I kept researching, and I found out about Jason Lau. And again, Jason Lau is a PhD in astrophysics from the University of Colorado. With that being said, I no longer accept that paradigm, but I still believe that those are strong arguments in chapter 2 about the Bible mentioning the expansion of the universe, the Bible declaring that the earth was round, and the terminator around the earth proves that it's round, meaning the line that separates light and darkness. The only way that you can get that is on a round earth. That the stars were innumerable. That was known by the biblical writers, even though the outside world believed that you could count and number the stars. Anyway, None of Your Business says, what about James Adair's book? Do you still believe what that's saying? I believe that James Adair did spend 40 years with Native Indians. I don't agree with his conclusion. I don't agree with his conclusion that the Native Indians are all the 10 tribes, or I've moved from that, it's a lot of things I don't agree with anymore because, I researched more and more and more and kept learning. A lot of people, they stop and then they get comfortable. I don't get comfortable. I listen to things that challenge my own beliefs. I say, okay, that challenged it, so let me go see if it can withstand the challenge. And if it can't withstand the challenge and the information is overwhelming, the scientific process tells you have to remove that hypothesis. You have to discard that hypothesis. There's no point in keeping the same hypothesis if it cannot withstand that scrutiny. So, you move on. But again, I still like his second chapter, strong arguments in chapter 2. Jason Lau is a bright individual. He's a PhD, but I just don't see the world through those lenses anymore. All right. Uh-huh. So I'll leave y'all with that, man. Donate to the book fund. You know, I put a lot of work in, put a lot of money into this. Like I said, if you go to my Google page, I purchased over 297 books, man. 297 books, and that's just my playbook catalog, my Google Playbook catalog, not my Kindle. So, do you follow astronomy and any prophecy around it? You mean astrology? No, I don't follow astrology. I do not follow astrology at all. What made you say that? I don't follow astrology. And astronomy is not something you follow. It's not like a cult or nothing like that. It's not like a religion. It's a field of study. Let me show you. Let me show you what astronomy is real quick. Well, I don't get what you're saying, none of your business. You're losing me. You're talking about astrology. I know astrology does that. I don't know about astronomy. Let me show you what astronomy is. And then you can take it for what it is or whatever. It's up to you. This is astronomy. This is what this is, sister, right here. Astronomy.
Astronomy.
The branch of science that deals with celestial objects, space, and the physical universe as a whole. That's what that means. All right. I'm not interested in looking at stars for prophecy or nothing like that. That's what you mean. I'm not interested in that. You know, but it sounds like you're trying to describe astrology, deal with like the zodiac and horoscopes and stuff like that. And I don't deal with that at all. So let me see. But astronomy is an actual field in science. Yeah, so this is astrology right here. That's why I thought
Astrology.
the study of the movements and relative positions of celestial bodies interpreted as having an influence on human affairs in the natural world. That sounds more up to speed what you were talking about, like prophecies and stuff like that. I have no interest in astrology at all. I mean, I have an interest in astronomy and astrophysics. But sister, that's what you were talking about. Astrology. You had to be been talking about astrology, not astronomy. Show me an astronomy book that talks about prophecies. Astronomy and eschatology. What is the connection in your opinion? I don't think there is a connection. Why would there be a connection? Let me pull up eschatology. So eschatology, the part of theology concerned with death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul and of humankind. I don't think, again, astronomy is not about that. Yeah, astronomy is not about that. I think you guys are confusing astronomy with astrology. None of your business. And have you been looking at stars lately? Not really, but if I see an interesting article about them discovering a new star, one of the most interesting articles I ever read was that there may be a star older than the universe itself. Let me show you that real quick. That's one of the most interesting articles I've ever read about stars. The Methuselah star. So not the Medusa Nebula, the Methuselah star. And what's so interesting about this star is it has metals in it, and it's a very old star. And if you know anything about star creation, um, the oldest stars are not supposed to have metals in it because heavier elements are supposed to come later, not in the beginning. So right here, if you go to space.com, you can read about the Methuselah star, the oldest star in the universe. The oldest star in the universe is HD 140283, or Methuselah, as it's commonly known. And in the universe, in the field of science, they will name stuff Methuselah because Methuselah is a biblical character, and he is known to grow at old age. So you do see those biblical tropes in the scientific field to this day. Y chromosome, Adam, Eve, Methuselah. You see those things, right? The digitized sky survey image shows Methuselah star located 190.1 light years away. Another reason you see these biblical tropes because Jewish people are in the science field too, and they're very influential in it. A lot of you people try to hate on Jews, but Jews, they do contribute a lot to these fields. Anyway, how can a star be older than the universe? It says astrologers refined the star's age to about 14.3 billion years ago, which is older than the universe, plus or minus 800 million years. And then you guys can read this article on your own. I thought this was the most interesting thing ever. Astronomers began observing Methuselah, named in reference to a biblical patriarch who is said to have died at age 969, making him the longest lived of all figures in the Bible more than 100 years ago. The curious star is located some 190 light years away from the Earth in the constellation Libra, and it rapidly journeys across the sky at 800,000 miles per hour. It was clear that the star was old. The metal poor subgiant is predominantly made of hydrogen and helium and contains very little iron. Such composition meant the star must have come into being when helium and hydrogen dominated the universe, and before iron became commonplace. The heavier elements only appeared when massive stars created them in their cores. So, great article. I'll give you guys this. I did, my personal favorite. Now y'all getting some of my personal favorite reads. Rail Ruger said the stars we probably see are dead already. It takes millions of years for the light to get to us, from what the scientists say. Yeah. So some stars aren't dead. It's possible that we are looking at stars that have already died, but that information has not got to us yet because it takes a long time for distant starlight to get to us. So that's one article right there, man. But again, I don't fool around with astrology. That's not my thing. Astronomy. I like astronomy and astrophysics. Anyway, let me see. There's something else I could read to you guys. Or just wrap it up. Let's see. Should we read Stephen C. Meyer? Or should I just play a video for him to close it out with that? Very brilliant stuff in this book. This book is just too long, 875 pages. So I will not be reading that from the beginning to the end on this channel. Anyway. Oh yeah, he did address the light problem, chapter 4. So the Judeo. Christian origin. Just a reminder where modern science comes from. Let's read this again. And then we'll call it a night. Let's see if I can find a quick clip of him saying this as well. Stephen C. Meyer. So this is the return of the God hypothesis, page 53 to 54. We'll read a little bit of this. The laws of nature. Natural philosophers during the scientific revolution often use another metaphor to characterize the workings of nature. Many began to characterize the natural world as a law-governed realm and sought to discover what they called the laws of nature. This metaphor expressed in part an idea implicit in the one previously discussed, since many natural philosophers thought that nature could be characterized as a kind of divine clockwork. They expected to observe regularity in the workings of nature. Boyle's analogy, likening God to a skilled watchmaker, expressed a common reverence for both the ingenuity and the regularity of divine activity as manifest in the natural world. The mechanical philosophers celebrated the regular concourse of nature as a consequence of God's ingenious design of various mechanistic processes. For example, they thought that the predictable relationships between the temperature, pressure, and volume of gases described by Boyle's law derived more fundamentally from the mechanistic interactions of corpuscles of air and their God-given properties. For them, the regularity of natural phenomena derived from the original design of the mechanism that made those phenomena possible, just as the regular movement of the hands of the clock derived from the underlying design of the arrangement of cogs and springs. Nevertheless, many natural philosophers are also conceived of the laws of nature as a more direct expression of God's orderly governance. To them, the metaphor of the laws of nature expressed a Judeo-Christian understanding of the relationship of nature to God, the divine legislator or governor who sustained the existence of the natural world and ensured its orderly working. Thus, many founders of early modern science attributed the regularity of nature not only to God's original design of the natural world, but also to God's constant orderly supervision of it. As the Oxford University historian of science John Hedley Brooke has explained, for Newton, as for Boyle and Descartes, there were laws of nature only because there had been a divine legislator. Numerous historians and philosophers of science, as well as a few scientists themselves, have made this connection. Some have even identified the Hebrew Bible as the ultimate source of the metaphor. As the Nobel laureate in University of California, Berkeley chemist Melvin Calvin argued, the notion of an order of nature was discovered 2,000 and 3,000 years ago and enunciated first in the Western world by the ancient Hebrews. Calvin notes that the monotheistic worldview of the ancient Hebrews suggested a reason to expect a single coherent order in nature and thus a single universally applicable set of laws governing the natural world. By contrast, because animists, polytheists, and pantheists affirm the existence of many spirits or gods, each possibly interacting with nature in different ways, they had no reason to think the natural phenomena would manifest uniformity and order. The ancient Hebrews, on the other hand, thought that, as Calvin put it, the universe is governed by a single God and is not the product of whims of many gods, each governing his own province according to his own laws. Calvin, like many historians and philosophers of science, identified this belief in an order-loving monotheistic God as the historical foundation for modern science. That's where you get science from. Modern science did not come from Kemet, like Polite was trying to say. Actually, modern science comes from Bible believers. That's where the field comes from. It gets an inception with Bible believers. Right? It says, during my studies, one of my supervisors directed me to a seminal article, The Genesis of the Concept of Physical Law, by historian of science Edgar Zilsel. In it, Silsel argues that the concepts of the laws of nature expresses a juridical metaphor of theological origin. He shows that the first people to conceive nature as an externally governed system were, in fact, the ancient Hebrews. Zilsel notes that various passages from the Bible, from the book of Job, Proverbs, Psalms, and even various prophetic books implied that God had issued laws or decrees that set boundaries on the range of possible natural phenomena. These books of the Bible use the Hebrew word chalk, translated variously as a law, decree, or commandment, a word often used to describe a category of God's commandments for human beings. Zilsel points out that the Bible also used this term to describe the limits that God placed upon the potential chaos of the material world. For example, the book of Job describes God as establishing by decree the exact strength of the force of the wind. Other passages in Job and the book of Jeremiah describe God setting the boundaries on the movements and extent of the sea. As Zilsel explains, the idea is distinctly implied that the sea to which the divine command is addressed wishes to offer resistance, but being too weak is forced to bow before the supreme power of the Lord. He argues that these biblical passages, as well as the idea of a single, omnipotent, and omniscient deity ruling over the nature, decidedly contributed to the formation of the modern concept of the laws of nature during the 17th century. By contrast, Silsel notes that ancient Greek or Roman philosophers, including those interested in nature, rarely used the terms laws of nature or natural law. As he explains, in the period of Sophists, the term law and nature became even opposites, with the term law designating by convention everything that is artificially introduced by men. Similarly, he observes that the atomist philosopher Democritus did not know anything of natural laws, though he attempted to explain all physical phenomena by causes. In addition, Silsel notes that most prominent Greek philosophers, Plato, Aristotle, simply didn't use the term laws of nature to describe natural phenomena. As he explains, Aristotle never used the law metaphor. Plato uses the term laws of nature only once to characterize the behavior of the healthy in contrast to the sick human body. Indeed, neither Plato nor Aristotle attempted to identify universal laws that applied to all of nature. Plato sought to identify the immaterial forms revealed in specific material objects. Aristotle sought to identify the four causes: material, formal, efficient, and final, that he thought explained or described specific objects or organisms. Nevertheless, Aristotle did not attempt to relate these causes to universal or recurring phenomena in nature. Later Greek and Roman philosophers, as well as Christian philosophers, heavily influenced by ancient Greeks, either lacked the concept of natural laws or did not use it to describe recurring physical phenomena. Epicurean philosophers who were atomists or atomists and materialists didn't conceive of nature as a law-governed system because they thought the gods didn't care about nature. The Roman Stoics, who recommended living in accord with the divine reason as well as an attitude of indifference to pleasure and pain, didn't have a concept of natural law. Nevertheless, they thought of the underlying logos or logic of the universe from which these laws derive, mainly as the source of moral principles that human beings can know by reason. Similarly, many Christian Neoplatonists and Christian Aristotelians during the Middle Ages did use the term natural law, but only to refer to the moral law knowable by reason, not to regularities observed in the physical world. Only in the 16th, 17th centuries, after Western Christianity had begun to rely more heavily on the Bible as a source of authority, as some of the passages discussed above came back into currency, did the term laws of nature begin to emerge in the writings of philosophers and scientists such as Bacon, Descartes, and Kepler. Christian Huygens, Richard Hooker, Boyle, and Newton to describe natural regularities. Zilsel acknowledges one early Greek scientist, Archimedes, who did describe certain phenomena in terms that we would today regard as laws of nature. Nevertheless, Archimedes himself considered these laws more as a self-evident logical principles that were intrinsic to nature and could not logically be otherwise. For example, Archimedes discovered his buoyancy principle in what we now call his law of the lever and law of optical reflection. Each of these principles would certainly qualify as a law in the modern sense. Archimedes, however, did not call them laws, but instead principles. Moreover, even though he discovered these principles by observation, he presented them as if they were deductions from self-evident logical postulates or axioms, as Euclid did in the works on geometry. Another historian of science, Francis Oakley, made a crucial distinction. He acknowledged that some ancient Greeks discovered principles that we would today regard as laws of nature, yet whereas the Greeks conceived of the principles as logically necessary axioms inherent in or eternal to nature itself, the scientists during the 17th century began to conceive of the laws of nature as contingent forms of order that were impressed upon nature from the outside by a creator. Since the founders of modern science thought the laws of nature expressed the free will of the divine creator and sustainer of nature, they recognized that whatever order nature exhibits might well have been different had the creator chosen to create or order the natural world differently. This conception of natural law has several beneficial effects on the development of science as we know it today. First, natural philosophers no longer thought they could deduce how nature works from other axioms or first principles. They instead realized that they would need to observe nature in order to discover its law-like regularities. Thus, the concept of impressed or contingent laws of nature encouraged empirical observation. Second, since the metaphor of laws of nature implied reliable divine oversight, the metaphor encouraged the use of mathematics to describe natural regularities. To employ philosophical terminology, the metaphor encouraged the development of rational empiricism that combined mathematical description and deduction with careful and inductive observation of nature. This mathematizing of the description of natural regularities enabled the prediction and control of nature and eventually fostered unprecedented technological advance. Only a few centuries after Newton characterized the universal law of gravity, human beings harnessed this knowledge to put men on the moon. So boom, Bible believers are the reason you get modern science, the reason why you get rational empiricism, the reason why you have terminology like the law of gravity. Right? These things come from Bible believers because they were thinking as if the universe was created by a creator, a divine legislator, and gave it laws. With that, I'm going to say good night to everybody. Peace. Shalom. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? If you guys want to support the book fund, man, hit my Cash App. Again, I've been footing that bill for a long time by myself. So anything helps. All right, y'all. I'm out, man. Hopefully you guys got something from this. You know, peace.
Whoa. The fat crib. Okay. It's clown free shit. MMG shit. Yeah. I'm the same nigga. 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 Same old street nigga. I'm the same nigga. Same old trap nigga. I'm the same nigga. Same old Mac nigga. I'm the same nigga. Pouring in my mouth nigga. Yeah, serve a nigga that fits. In the hood with a stick. Mindset get rich. On cuz that's it. I was working that scale. Really beating that pot. In the hood with that drop. Trying to ride me a drop. Selling work in my socks. Get the dough with my Glock. Pop a nigga through the peephole. All that funny shit can get stopped. Hey, niggas know about the kid now. Yeah, niggas know you get stick down. SK hold 3 now. That 3 harm get sweet down. Ballin', bustin' fucking all these niggas hold now. Trust me, I'm clutching. Wrecked up in the geek now. Same nigga you hatin' on be the same nigga with your bitch house. Drunk and fucking your bitch mouth. Beating it down your big cat. I'm the same nigga. 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 Same old street nigga. I'm the same nigga. Same old trap nigga. I'm the same nigga. Same old Mac nigga. I'm the
grass in the dope. Move 100,000 chopaholic. Muscle gang, Lex, Luger, 10 shooters in a Uber. Pull up on your baby mama, pussy nigga. Same time, I'ma roll it, though the time wrong. Same block, niggas grind on. Same light, niggas shine on. I'm the same nigga with the Range Rover, ride dirty while the 12 rollers. Cans ashing from the baking soda. I was cooking up the Coca-Cola. Fiends, how you dabbing for that check? Trap booming, I ain't missing yet. Same nigga from the same hood. Same gang got a Hollywood. Catching plays, I been running routes. 5 years, I'm gon' run the south. Ain't no secret, bitch, I'm in and out. Buying wings, stopping Waffle House. Sold stores, taking money back. Kill 'em hundreds like a psychopath. Same nigga with a lot of cash. Same nigga with the same rags.
I'm the same